Another video for how you do stuff on your E39 M5. Today we're going to be looking at changing the radiator, expansion tank and both main coolant hoses from the radiator. Now my hand was sort of forced into changing them a bit. There's nothing practically wrong with the radiator or coolant hoses, but the expansion tank has suffered the usual failure and the overflow pipe nipple has sheared off. Whilst in the grand scheme of things it's not a major issue, you can use a piece of slightly over diameter hose to join it to the breather pipe and you'd have zero issues at all, and it'd still work exactly as functional as it's this one closest to the front of the car that comes from the top of the radiator for the radiator vent. So why am I changing it? Well, apart from that, and the fact that it's bright yellow, which is another common issue. The radiator is the original burr item, and looking at the manufacturer's sticker down here has the original date on it of January 2001, and when looking at it down the core, it's got a radiator plug, so at some point in its life it's had a little repair. At the moment it's perfectly fine, however I've upgraded to a aluminium one from Direnza Super Cool Engine Works. Now that's not a company I've ever heard of, and found it on eBay as I was perusing the parts. I've got no affiliation with company. I've not even opened the box yet. It turned up this morning at 7:30 on a 24-hour delivery. So we shall open it and have a look at the quality of the product inside. So initially on opening, it appears to be very well packed with multiple bits of polystyrene protecting the end cans and the core from any damage, and plenty of bubble wrap as well. So we'll whip this open and see what it's like. Initial assessments before bubble wrap comes off appears to be very good. And it looks to be a reasonably well made piece of kit. All aluminium core. Couple of slightly damaged radiator fins there, but nothing that will concern me from transportation. Welding looks reasonably well good. TIG welded aluminium, TIG welded brackets, machined aluminium hose mounts, so the original BMW items will go straight on. Looking inside to the core, looks reasonably well put together in there as well. and same again other side. Everything looks reasonably well put together. The welds from the end tanks certainly look to have penetrated all the way through. Yeah, I'm impressed. For 139 quid delivered on a 24-hour courier, I'm impressed. If it fits as well as it looks and performs as well, then I'd say it's a good bargain. So before you can get the radiator out, you'll need to take the shroud off and the viscous fan. Viscous fan comes off with a 32mm viscous fan spanner, and it is in the anti-clockwise direction. On radiator shroud, unplug the resistor pack for the air conditioning fan. Remove the header tank breather pipe, preferably without snapping the nipple off like I did, and the expansion pipe from the top of the radiator. Then on the sides you got a couple of little push tabs that simply remove. Then once they're out of the way, you can lift the header tank off its mounting after removing the push tabs at the top as well. Move the header tank out of the way. Once you remove the viscous fan as well, then you can lift all this off in one complete unit, and that'll leave you something looking like this. Next point to call is get the car up in the air. Then you can drain the radiator of all the coolant underneath. Down in the bottom right hand corner there is a little tap that you can undo, and then you'll be able to drain the coolant off from there. So to do that, you need to get your car up in air and remove the under tray. Once you've got your car up in air and it's safely secured, I'm using a set of lifting ramps I had specially made, and they're supported with an axle stand at each side for extra security, as well as chocks and the lifting jack. And you can get to your under tray. Under tray is really easy to pop off. When you go under, you'll be able to see whereabouts the half twist screws are located at various locations, and once you've got them off, this will pop down and slide backwards towards the rear of the car. When you've got your under tray off, you'll be able to have good access to everything, and this is the bit we want here, so we can drain our coolant. Quarter turn, twist, then it comes out. And coolant goes everywhere. Make sure you've got plenty of cloths and rags, and obviously a bucket underneath. And whilst the coolant system's draining, you can start removing the header tank and top hose. So header tank's really easy. Unclip the level sensor, then remove the jubilee clip and simply lift out of the way. And the top hoses and bottom hose are just as simple. Lift up the spring clip, then simply pull out of the way. Might take a bit of pulling because there's a massive rubber O-ring in there which is seated as well. Then on the thermostat water pump side, jubilee clips, remove it all. Now, once you've got your header tank out of the way and drained all the coolant out of the radiator, tuck the header tank hose up just behind the oil harness line. This will stop any residual coolant pouring back onto the floor. Then you can unplug the temperature sensor from the top of the bottom hose, and then same again, little clip on the bottom hose to remove it from the radiator. Now that we've got the top and bottom hoses off and anything else attached to the radiator that needs to be removed, we can remove it. Simply a case of unbolting the supporting brackets from the top, one on each side, using an 8mm socket. Gently lever the brackets out from the top of the radiator, and then the entire unit will lift out in one go. If you ever wanted a good enough reason to remove the radiator for inspecting everything, then here it is. Absolutely clogged at the front with leaves and road grime and detritus and general crap. Also, initially we can see that the cores are starting to perish. The radiator fins are dropping in bits due to corrosion, and this will be a direct result of all the crap that's built up over the years, as I have a feeling this radiator has never been removed in its life except for a small repair at some point, and then it was replaced. And over the years this stuff's built up and up and up, and it is the main cause of radiator failures. It's also the main cause of your air conditioning thing radiators failing as well. So whilst it's all in bits, you may as well take it all out and give it a good clean. After you've got everything cleaned up in car, we can start preparing radiator fitment. So first we'll need to transfer our rubber mounting pads from the original radiator to the new one. On the original radiator, the lugs which you sit on are like a cross shaped. On these they're round, so what I've done is drilled out my mounting lugs with a 13mm drill, and they slide on perfectly now. And check that the drain is correctly fitted, and just have a general inspection of the radiator prior to fitting, and make sure that everything behind here is absolutely spotlessly clean. So give your air conditioning radiator a hoover. Do not go side to side with the brushed vacuum cleaner, otherwise you'll end up bending up fins. Go up and down instead, then you'll avoid any damage to the fins. And once you're happy with the cleanliness of everything down there, then you can put your new radiator into place. Same principle goes if you're refitting your old radiator as well. Make sure everything's spotless before you put it all back together. Fitment of the aftermarket aluminium radiator is very good. A lot better than what I expected. Mounts perfectly to the OEM seating brackets which support the weight of it. The only thing I can see so far is on the top side where the outlet hose to the header tank goes. There's no bracket for mounting the original retaining clip which stops the radiator rocking backwards and forwards. On the driver's side there is. So we'll have a look at it and see what's what. But so far that is the only thing I've picked up on which is an issue. Now the radiator is secured using the top mounts. The driver's side's got its square mount welded into it, rubber bushing inserts in, plastic clip goes on, secures down. Passenger side, I'm not happy about it, but I've had to use a cable tie to secure it round the mounting bracket, but it does stop it moving backwards and forwards. And once all the shroud and covers are on, it won't be seen. So it's not the end of the world, it's a minor inconvenience, and it's something that the manufacturer should pick up on once people start feeding back. Before we put it all back together, I've ordered some brand new top hoses and bottom hoses from BMW. Just want to try the old ones, make sure that everything's a good fitment, and I'm absolutely delighted. The spring clip system has gone straight onto this new radiator, which is an aftermarket radiator, with no issues. I expected a bit of a struggle. It's nice tight fit, nice and snug, and I can't foresee any issues with these using the original BMW hoses, which is fantastic news. So once all the new hoses are fitted, we'll be able to put it all back together and refill the system. But in the meantime, we can refit the viscous fan shroud and put the viscous fan back in. for the bleed hose to the header tank from the top of the radiator, the pipe out of the new radiator is slightly larger than the original, so I've used the original pipe and the fuel system hose clip, which allows it to be nice and secure instead of the pre-tensioning spring type clip that was on originally. Once you've refitted the shroud, you can put your rubber strip back on to the top, then put back in the skewering pins on each corner, and then refit your viscous fan. When you put your viscous fan back on, put a small dollop of grease on the threads where the fan nut skewers to the water pump, then it will allow you to remove it easier on if you need to remove it at a later date instead of it being seized on. This is what just shy of 200 quid gets you from BMW. Brand new header tank, which isn't yellow, as any M5 owner knows. The standard header tank that's come with car has gone yellow over years, looks a bit nasty. Brand new bottom hose with sensor and a brand new top hose as well. Before you put the hoses onto your radiator, whether it's a brand new radiator or you're using your old radiator, just inside are some O-rings. If you lubricate them with neat antifreeze, it will aid the fitment of the hose fitting over the radiator and avoid any damage to the O-rings inside. Now it's all been put back together, the top hose, bottom hose, expansion tank have all been refitted. Make sure that your hoses are securely pushed on and that the clips are located in place, and that all jubilee clips tightened up where required. When you're refitting your bottom hose, make sure that you've got adequate space between the Vanos unit and the hose itself, as once it's warmed up the hose may move either way, and I've seen them in the past rubbing against the Vanos units. So make sure everything's tight and secure, then you're ready to fill it up with antifreeze. Now the original antifreeze BMW used is the blue glycol, so I'll be using that as well, and I'll be filling it up with distilled water in a 50-50 mix ratio. Now that all the car is back together, coolant system has been filled and bled up as far as it can be bled up without the engine running. It's time to start the engine and check for any leaks and give the coolant system a proper bleed. To do this, fill the coolant system up to the mark, put the cooling cap on, screw it down, start the engine, put the temperature up inside on the display to maximum, and turn on the interior fan. Then allow the engine to warm up to temperature. Then once the thermostat opens, any air that's been trapped within the body of the engine block and cylinder heads will be allowed to escape. Ensure that your car is slightly raised at the front. Then this will allow the highest point of the coolant system to be here, so it will self-bleed. If you're doing this on any other BMW, then the radiator top hose and header tank has a bleed screw, but the M5 is a self-bleeding coolant system. With the engine running, we can now monitor the coolant system and keep an eye on the temperature. The thermostat should open at 79 degrees, and once it does, then that will allow any trapped air bubbles to bleed through. Currently it's at 52 and slowly rising. And whilst the coolant system gets up to temperature, we can observe for any leaks around any of the pipe fittings where they go into the radiator and back to the engine. And we can also keep an eye on anything else which we may have any issues with. The engine's now been running for around about 20 minutes and the coolant level has settled to what will be just below the cold maximum mark once it cools down and the water contracts, as hot water we all know expands. There are zero leaks from any of the coolant system. The alloy radiator, so far so good. Zero leaks from any of the welds on it or any of the connections that have been made back to the car. And I'll give you an update in a couple of weeks with regards to its robustness and reliability. So thanks for watching, and hopefully this independent review of this alloy radiator with a fitting guide for it as well will come in useful if you decide to buy one. Anything else you want to know, let me know. Any questions that I can help you with, give us a shout, drop some comments and I'll do my best to help you.